In anticipation of the annually held Vanguard Awards, slated for 11th March 2017, the Vanguard Economic Discourse, tagged "The Hard Facts to Rescue the Nigerian Economy," was held on the 10th of March 2017. The event had an impressive attendance of personalities from different spheres of life. Vanguard newspaper is one of Nigeria's oldest and most widely read newspapers. The dignitaries list include the keynote speaker, Professor Charles Saluda, former CBN governor, chairman of the Discourse, Mr. Fola Adeola, founding GMD and CEO GT Bank. The panelists include Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Honourable Minister Solid Minerals Development, Comrade Adam Soshomole, former Governor Edo State, Mr. Muda Yusuf, the DG Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Alex Oti, former GMD Diamond Bank, Dr. Budaya Melafia, former Deputy Governor CBN, Mr. Issa Aremu, NEC member, NLC General Secretary of the National Union of Textile and Garment Workers of Nigeria, Honorable Dimeji Bankole, former Speaker, House of Reps, President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Chief Mrs. Nikki Akonde, Dr. Emmanuel Uduaga, former Governor of Delta State, and other notable personalities. In the welcome remark, the GM and Editor-in-Chief of the Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Gbenga Adefaye, said the reason for the Vanguard Economic Discourse was to afford Nigerians a platform to address the economic challenges facing the nation, concerns about the people, and assist the government to achieve a turnaround. He also stressed that everyone must endeavor to make concerted efforts towards overcoming the current recession and achieving a better life. He finally enumerated the challenges Vanguard had faced in surviving as a leading newspaper in Nigeria. Remarkable contributions were made by the panelists, proffering solutions and suggestions to rescue the nation's economic problems, which have been like a recurring decimal over the years. The keynote speaker, Professor Charles Saluda, in his remarks, stated that the drastic decline in the economy is due to government's overdependence on oil, which has affected the revenue base of the country over the years. He further opined that even though the present challenges arising from the poor state of the economy is one inherited from the previous government, the current government of the All Progressives Congress APC has not fared better. Professor Charles Saluda therefore advised the federal government to block all the loopholes from where the economy is being drained perpetually.
And to be fair, it bears repeating that the federal government, or this current government, inherited a bad economy. By May 2015, the federal government was already borrowing to pay salaries, and about 30 states had challenges meeting their salary obligations. The previous government had an unprecedented rate of debt accumulation, even at a time of unprecedented oil boom, and was even depleting our foreign reserves instead of more than doubling what it met. It could have more than doubled the reserves if it grew it by just 50% of the rate of growth for the period 2004 to 2008. Oil prices were falling, and disruptions of output in the Niger Delta made matters worse. Of course, insecurity, especially in the northeast, was very high. And there is a mishmash of these command and control measures, demand management, and exchange controls, all of which have wreaked havoc on business confidence and private investment. There's massive capital flight and have driven the macroeconomy into a recession.
He finally advised the present government to desist from blaming the past administration and focus on its manifesto of moving the country forward to bring about the expected change, restructure the country, and project appropriate policies. He said enough of the blame game and that the Buhari administration needs to re-strategize.
The plan, as packaged, is a good effort. But in terms of our expectations as a plan for transition to a post-oil economy, as promised by the APC, it is a missed opportunity. It is a generic plan and in several aspects resembles the NIS document designed for a different era with some tinkering. It is a plan to consume the oil and commodity rents and not one to restructure in order to replace them. With rising oil price and output, the economy will recover and grow, quote and unquote. But in spite of the plan and not because of it. It will take the next oil commodity shock for us to lament that we should have had a plan to transit from oil commodity dependence. What Nigeria needs at this time is statesmanship politics. And that is in demand of the men and women who are ready to pay a huge political price to fundamentally lay a new foundation. I guess we can, but if we set our mind to it, let's now debate. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fola Adeola, a former vice presidential aspirant and GMD CEO GT Bank and chairman of the Faith Foundation, who was the chairman of the Discourse session, introduced the topic of the discussion, the hard facts to rescue the Nigerian economy, noting its importance against the backdrop of the economic recession the country is currently faced with. The former deputy governor of the CBN, Dr. Obadiah Melafia, who is one of the panelists, said the absence of a national consensus, human security and increase in crime have greatly affected the level of trust Nigerians and other nationals have in the system. He encouraged Nigerians to get rid of countercultures which presents the country in bad light and encourage Nigerians to have faith in the country. He further advised the government to improve the lot of the youth, the women and the judiciary.
I would like to point out a few blind spots that perhaps in a lot of our popular discourses on the economy, we hardly ever make reference to. First, the absence of a national consensus. We are, and painfully this is increasingly so, we have become a very divided country, more divided than ever. If you look at all the advanced emerging economies, the first thing that they had to get right was a broad national consensus with regard to national development. That was the case with President Park in South Korea. That was the case of Suharto in Indonesia. It was the same case with Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, among others. We need to get that kind of broad national consensus.
Now, I will be talking from a private sector perspective, because we are talking about rescuing the economy. And what can the private sector put on the table to rescue the economy? We know that the economy has challenges, recession and all of that. And to get the economy out of recession, you need to bring investment to the table. There are a number of components of investment. You have domestic investment, you have foreign direct investment, you have foreign portfolio investment. Those are the key components of investment. So if the private sector has to be part of the rescue mission, we need to see how we can activate the private sector to move along these directions.
Comrade Isa Aremu, National Executive Committee, NLC, and Secretary General, National Union of Textile and Garment Workers Nigeria, in his view, called on the government to revitalize national planning with a contextual vision on the governmental attitude of setting national goals. He further called on the Nigerian government as regards the need for industrialization and promotion of local contents. As a unionist, he canvassed for increment in wages of the Nigerian workers so as to boost their morale and attitude to work.
The recent assault we have on Naira is done by speculators, who take every advantage. As CBN moves right, they move left. CBN goes left, they move right. And in the process, all of us are the worse off for it. I mean, Professor Saluda, when you are CBN governor, you control capital because about bank consolidation. It's all about controlling capital. Why do you have to consolidate banks? You should allow them to be mushroom if they want to, but for national agenda, you thought you should consolidate them so that they can effectively deliver on development. I think CBN has done few things, although it could do more. There are a lot of few distortions they must overcome. But when you see CBN anchor borrowing for rice production, Today, we are more or less building food security in terms of rice production. So we can target resources for productive sector of the economy. 41 items, for me, it should be more than that. There are few things we must ban in this country. No, I'm serious. Where we have productive advantage at home, why should we import African fabric? Why will Chinese clothe us? Why should we give foreign exchange for someone to go and buy print from China, which they don't even wear? And why do you want to do so here? I think you should give it to Nigerian textile manufacturers, create jobs, have control over it.
Dr. Alex Oti, former GMD Diamond Bank, in his remarks said recession is not a threat if the right policies are put in place by the government. He argued that an increase in the interest rate demanded by financial institutions discourages borrowing and public participation in wealth creation. He posited that if the CBN removes the hiccups, investors will be encouraged, which will lead to growth in the nation's GDP. He went on to push for restructuring in the system of government, as the current system is extremely expensive, especially with the current economic recession.
What he didn't say is that the interest rate as it is today is maintained at that level because monetary policy rate has been fixed at 14%. You cannot be increasing interest rate in a recession. It is economics 101. When you have a recession, what you need to do is to reflate the economy. When you increase interest rate, you just crowd out every other person. And I understand all the arguments. I hear them, oh, inflation is at about 18%. We want to stop speculators. We want to do this and that and all that. They are worn-out arguments. Because what drives savings, and we know, bankers will know, it's not, you can adjust your interest rate 1,000,000 times. A lot of people will not even feel it. So it's a lot of other things, other policies that would determine whether people would save money or would not.
Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Honourable Minister, Solid Minerals Development, said the economic recession has long been foreseen and that the current government is passionate about diversifying into other streams of economic growth. He said Nigerians are not keeping to the tax policy and that revenue generated from tax in Nigeria is the lowest in the African continent. The Honourable Minister stated clearly that the vandalization of pipelines in the Niger Delta region is a major cause of government income reduction, which has brought about the poverty in the region.
What this government has done, for example, with cash calls in the oil and gas sector is not often talked about. And we need to be much more open about that, because this is a problem that this country has faced over the last 2 decades. Refusal to settle cash calls to companies, and that in turn affects productive capacity in the oil and gas sector. And no matter how much we want to diversify, which is an agenda of this government, we still need oil revenue to diversify.
The Managing Director, Financial Derivatives Company Limited, Mr. Bismarck Rewani, attributed the fragile nature of the Naira to weakness in the country's mainstay and the subsidization policy of government. He said that government should review loan terms and eliminate structurally induced corruption. As an economist of note and a long-standing financial expert, he advised governments to be mindful of the type of policies that are brought to the fore, especially as it concerns the economy, so as not to compound the already serious economic problems the country is presently grappling with.
Where is the Nigerian economy at this point in time? In emergency ward, on the site of the accident, and what are we going to do to rescue it short term? That vicious cycle, that political cycle where you scramble for power, squabble for the spoils, then use the spoils to fight for the next power, the next election, that's the cause of the economic crisis that you have. So, reality. So 1 second. If you do not fix the electoral process, and I'm not talking about verification of votes, I'm talking about electronic voting, this economy will go nowhere. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
The immediate past governor of Edo State, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, who was the last panelist, was of the view that recession had a root in the Nigerian economy even before the time of President Yar'Adua. He stressed that there is lack of transparency and trust in governance. He further pointed out the problem of credible accountability in the administration of the past CBN leadership, who were faced with challenges they left unresolved.
We've forgotten that this is not the first time Nigeria has found itself in what you call economic crisis. Shagari had it and introduced what you call austerity measures. Maybe we are just playing with language. And of course, under Yar'Adua, PDP, we also had economic crisis. And President Yar'Adua, in his wisdom, constituted what he called Economic Emergency Management Committee, in which he identified some private sector players, bankers, CBN governor, some APC governors there, or ACN, Fashola and I were there, and other Professor Saluda as governor of CBN. The Naira had just been devalued. And you know that when economy depends so much on import, devaluation simply translates to higher prices. And higher prices put pressure on wages and on consumers. And I got some intelligence from my comrades who work in the system, and we found out that the CBN under Saluda had just allocated a couple of millions of dollars to two, as they were then known, two new generation banks. And I asked Prof, this devaluation, is this a result of pressure of demand and supply? Did Naira simply collapse overnight, or was it programmed? He said, no, there's nothing to panic. It was programmed. They fixed the date, they knew they were going to devalue by that particular date, the date it was devalued. And then I asked him, if you were going to devalue by Friday, why did you auction dollars at a lower rate on Thursday?
The discussion session ended in almost what one will refer to as a serious argument between Professor Charles Saluda and Comrade Adams Oshiomhole on positions earlier taken by them on the course of the present position of the economy, as the event came to a successful end and served the purpose of public enlightenment for which it was organized, to basically address the current recession in the country.